In this video, I'm going to compare Finding Nemo to The Incredibles. Now, I think that both of these films are fantastic. They're some of the strongest Pixar films. The big difference between them, to be honest, is that Incredibles obviously sets up a sequel. The ending to the first movie is a cliffhanger, so immediately everybody was like, yeah, of course we want Incredibles 2. And now it's like, yeah, of course we want Incredibles 3 because this is a world that's very interesting. The people making Incredibles have done a good job of just creating a world that you want to spend more time in, that you want to explore further. And there's very obviously more stories you can tell because there's all these heroes and there can be new villains that are introduced. Finding Nemo does not set up a franchise. I think inherently the foundation of what Finding Nemo is about doesn't lend itself well to more follow ups. Incredibles is based on a foundation that obviously has room to tell more stories. Now, if I'm looking at just Finding Nemo 1 versus Incredibles 1, which movie do I like more? That's an interesting question because I think that they're pretty close quality wise, to be honest. As I've talked about before, the only issue I can think of with the first Incredibles is that Syndrome's motivation, his origin, is pretty generic. It's stuff we've seen before. The guy who starts off as a fanboy of the hero, who then feels slighted by the hero and thus decides to pursue revenge and thus becomes a supervillain. That was Riddler in Batman Forever. Also, Aldrich Killian and Iron Man 3, Electro and Amazing Spider-Man 2. Finding Nemo, interestingly enough, doesn't have a clear villain. I mean, could you argue that Darla is a villain? Sure, but is she really a villain? I mean, not really, because at the end of the day, she's a child. Okay, sure, when we first see her, they literally play the psycho theme. She might look kind of creepy, but at the end of the day, she doesn't know that the fish actually can talk or that they are sentient. It's pretty clear that the humans don't know that the fish can actually talk. It seems like that guy, Dr. Sherman, doesn't know that the fish can talk. So, I mean, is it fair to say that Darla is evil? No, I don't think that's fair to say she's evil. So I don't think she's a villain. Maybe she's the antagonist, but there's not a clear, obvious villain in Finding Nemo. Unlike Incredibles, where Syndrome is obviously the villain. I think Finding Nemo is a fantastic movie. I really don't have any issues with it at all. I think it just works on every level. The animation is top notch and holds up incredibly well. Voice acting, great across the board. The story is compelling. You like spending time with the characters. There's both dramatic moments that hit hard, especially, of course, the opening with Marlin losing his whole family except for Nemo. Man, that is so sad. But then it's heartwarming when Marlin actually does rescue Nemo. There's solid humor in there. There's some action in the movie that works well. When it comes to Incredibles, I think the voice acting animation is again top notch. The story is compelling. Incredibles is definitely a more mature Pixar film. I mean, there's moments of humor in it, but if you actually think about what's in the movie, it's not at all exclusively for kids. It's very obviously not, because you have someone attempting to commit suicide in the first 10 minutes, and then you have Bob going through a midlife crisis. That resonates much more with someone who's 50 than someone who's only 15. Plus, you have a villain who we know has killed many supers before, and then he knowingly fires missiles at this jet. And even when he learns there are children on board, he does not back down at all. There's a part of the movie where Bob thinks his whole family has been killed. Plus, it's clear that Elastigirl or Helen suspects that Bob, Mr. Incredible, might be cheating on her. So, there's some pretty mature stuff in that movie, especially when Helen directly tells her kids, these bad guys will not exercise restraint because you're children. They will kill you if given the chance. Do not give them that chance. So I like that Brad Bird and other people working on the film trusted the younger audience to be okay with some more mature stuff. So I think if I was just to compare Finding Nemo and Incredibles, just first movie in each of these franchises, I would choose Finding Nemo. But which franchise do I like more? Finding Nemo and Dory or Incredibles 1 and 2? Obviously Incredibles, no contest at all. So I'll wrap things up for this one.